Very good. It's 1 o'clock, so we will begin the Liquor Control Board meeting for today. We have 5 agenda items, so we'll begin with number 1 to approve the minutes of the April 19th, 2023 regular meeting. We have them in front of us, the minutes, so if anybody has any changes or corrections, otherwise we will accept a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or corrections? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, number 2, review liquor applications. 2A, Lovely Grill LLC, doing business as Lovely Grill, located at 1324 25th Avenue South for a Class F alcoholic beverage license. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for amending your schedules to allow me to be gone last week. I was attending a conference, and so it was nice to be able to get away and learn some things and be able to bring them back so I can do my job more effectively. So the Lovely Grill, this is in the old Cajun Cafe building down there, so if you're kind of wondering where that is. And the Class F alcoholic beverage license is full alcohol served at a table or booth. Food sales must exceed the alcohol sales, and there is no bar allowed. We've done the background check on this applicant, and it does, there were no items of concern. So, any questions?
So one of the questions I have, so it says it's a Class H alcoholic beverage license on the.
That's a typo.
Okay.
I'll get that fixed.
And so, and as far as concerns, there was nothing other than the credit?
That's correct. So in the investigation notes, nothing under criminal history, a few credit items that were delinquent or charged off, but certainly nothing that would, prevent the issuance of this license.
Oh, very good. Do we have any other questions from anybody on the board? Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2B, Royal Buffet Incorporated, doing business as Royal Buffet, located at 1620 32nd Avenue South for a Class H alcoholic beverage license. Steve?
And I see I have that one listed as an F on the, so I have them backwards. I'm sorry about that. We'll get that fixed. So, again, this is an existing restaurant. They want to add beer sales. So the Class H, it's again, table service only, no bar, and food sales must exceed alcohol sales. Looking at the criminal history and the credit history, there are no items of, that showed up on those for either of the two applicants.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions about any of the application?
Okay, well, just to be sure, Steve, so the A was a hotel play, inside of a hotel? So that's an H?
No, so the H for hotel, we add to the AB license. So the AB license becomes ABH
Okay.
for hotels. Just a straight H is just straight beer.
Okay,
Yeah.
beer on premise, all right.
Steve, when it's an existing business and it is getting a license like this, what's the timeline for server training?
Well, with the new server training ordinance that we have, they would need to have everybody be server trained that's involved in the stream of alcohol service prior to anybody serving. So it would be basically immediately. They would have to get everybody up to speed.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3, the Police Department Monthly Report. A is the general report. Chief.
Good afternoon, everyone. A couple things to point out on the report. This last month, we had an incident over at the Empire on April 30th, which an individual was a victim of an aggravated assault, and the suspect was one of the bouncers at the establishment. That eventually led to his arrest and charging with aggravated assault. We met with the owner, Mr. Swanek, on this particular situation. We also had some concerns with the staff and their level of cooperation with the investigation. So we expressed those concerns to him. He was very open to that and committed to making sure staff understands that they need to cooperate with the law enforcement investigation. He also informed me that this individual had resigned his employment. However, he's been hired by another establishment on Broadway, and it maybe just goes towards that piece later in the agenda on the Green Dot training, some of this training for these bouncers. Because while we've addressed it here, individuals working at another place, and I think without that training component, that's kind of the perpetual situation we find ourselves in. In terms of some other good things, we've had some very good contacts with District 64. I think the relationship there is going very well with our liaison officers and the owners there. They've called and we've addressed some underage persons who've been inside there. They've also made some adjustments to their staff based on some of the things the staff should have done but didn't do. So we think that's good on their part. And we had some compliance failures, which I believe will be agendized for you at our next meeting. And you'll see those on there as well. And that's all that I have, absent any questions.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions? I would say, so I did the ride along. It was a great experience, and we did a walkthrough of several establishments. The thing that surprised me the most was no one was doing the scanning. We've been told that a lot of, and my perception is I think the high capacity bars and restaurants should be doing that. That's just my opinion. I think we need to do all we can because I just think there's no human way possible, especially when you have a lot of people coming through to check IDs. And some people are excellent at identifying real versus fake IDs, but it's very challenging. And especially when you have the technology available, I guess from our perspective, we don't, or at least for me, I don't want to mandate it. But I think whatever we can do to strongly encourage it, we should really be doing that. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, Chief, but go ahead.
Well, no, I think it does speak for itself. We've seen a lot of success with the establishments that do use the ID scanning. We've had the discussion with Windbreak, who's committed to doing that as well as part of their agreement. And so, it's kind of from my perspective, a no-brainer in terms of eliminating that problem with the technology and how people can create those false IDs. The only things we've identified now with those using them, as you mentioned, that if they're just relying on someone at the bar versus someone at the door, you really have to stop them at the door and find out before they get in that they are of age and not rely on a bartender as they get busy, et cetera. So.
And I guess just to continue the conversation, to me, especially on these busy nights, you need to have this at both entrances. Most of these places have more than one entrance, and like you said, to have them checked before they come in. I think that would resolve so many things. And so at this point, I think we're strongly encouraging it, but maybe there's some way we can do some type of funding, or I don't know. But I just think, to me, the smaller bars and restaurants, not so much, but the high capacity places where they're full of people, to have an ID check is almost, that should be something that should be done for sure. So.
Yeah. And actually, if you look at our non-compliance, they're restaurants. So, we might be in a position to say that everyone should be doing this, really. So.
Any other comment? Go ahead, Kay.
I'd like to follow up and thank you for pointing that out about the Empire, because I was going to bring that up had you not done it. And to tag along with Commissioner Pepcorn's comments about the scanners, had we not had a video camera at that establishment to catch what happened in real time, or what was truthful, that brings to mind for me to look at encouraging those video cameras so that we have access to that in the future too. And maybe it's going to come down to a mandate if we have problems with certain areas. But anyway, I was grateful that you brought that up and that they had a camera. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions for the chief? Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so we're moving on, and I guess and maybe this is this the time that we're going to talk about, the next on the agenda is the windbreak. Is that something, or are we going to move that down?
No, we are ready. Actually, I did receive the signed document, the agreement. So I'm just going to back up a little bit. So windbreak over the past number of months, mostly in 2022, had a lot of recurring incidents, right? And so we wanted to address that and do something. And so we provided a notice of a hearing. And prior to that hearing, we had that initial meeting with them and determined that, okay, if we follow through with these steps that would help improve business process within your establishment, that we wouldn't have to have that hearing. We had agreed to that as a board. And so it was a matter of formalizing those steps. And so Nancy did draft that agreement and we got it out to them. Really came back with just a minor change in the hours that he was going to do the scanning. And so that agreement is a lay down item for you. In your packet, it was just draft. But we do have it signed. And so with your approval now, then we will go to City Commission and seek approval there. And then we'll have a path forward with windbreak. And my personal feeling, I'd much rather be able to help guide a business rather than, come down really hard on them and stuff. And so, Commissioner, and really big thanks to Bob. Bob Nelson went out and met with the windbreak, spent a good 3 hours with them, talked process and how we could improve things. And so just really, and Commissioner, you two were involved in those discussions as well as the chief and Nancy. And so I feel really good about the outcome. So.
Sure, and so I guess it's a time if anybody has any comments or questions, but I do think it's a good process. They have agreed to use scanners, which I think is going to be good. And the chief, I think they've obviously improved a little bit. We haven't had as many calls recently, and so those are all good things. Go ahead, Kay, and anybody else.
Why 8 o'clock? Why start scanning at 8 o'clock?
But based on his business practice, that's when he starts getting busy. And so, basically we're saying that 8 to 1 o'clock, or I don't remember exact times, and pretty much just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just the busy days. The other days it's not as busy, and so you're not having that rush of people. And so, like Commissioner said, you have the time to look, and maybe when they find out that it's really working, maybe we're hoping that they'll just extend it and do it all the time. But we want to take that soft approach rather than coming down hard. So.
Okay. So if people start catching on to this and start coming in at 7, is that flexible?
I'm sure that they'll monitor it. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just had a question about 3B, the point about installing and maintaining the security cameras. That seems fine, but I was just curious about the second part of that they must make that footage available without a subpoena. Is that legal?
So I'm going to paraphrase what Nancy said. At least my understanding of it is, as long as it's agreed to in this document, then it's legal. So, so basically, he's agreeing that, hey, for this period of time, if you have any incidents, you have free access to my cameras.
And I will say that kind of goes along with what happened at the Empire. The Empire had the video. The ownership agreed for the police to request access, and they agreed to it. So it's kind of similar to that line of thinking, that if we have an issue that comes up, the police can request that, and they're agreeing ahead of time to give them permission to use that. Is that?
And if we were absent that, we would still have subpoena power to be able to go in and do that.
Absolutely.
So this is again that let's work together to improve things, and so that's.
As long as it's been run by our legal folks, just wanted to check.
Well, yeah, believe me, it's gone through legal.
Good.
Any other?
Believe me, I didn't draft this.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. I found the managing owner, Mike Helbachek, very professional, took very complete records of his business, people in, people out, problems, et cetera. And he has been helpful sharing video with the police department in the past. The part of the problem was that he felt picked on because he's also partners with the guy from Poorhouse and that whole license thing. So, I think he's going to take this a lot more serious. So he's a smart guy, good businessman, real ethical guy, but he had lost his way as far as the bar culture. And, that comes up a lot. There's some of the people that are here all the time. These people take their businesses really serious. So I think Steve's approach of let's work with them rather than just have hammers and try to improve, I think is the right way to do it. Now, that doesn't mean they're all great actors out there. There are some bad ones, but I was impressed with, how open he was about his business and what he felt he was doing right. And he finally kind of realized there's a lot I can do better, which is, I was proud of that as a group, as a city, as a police force, as a board, that we've got somebody that agrees that I can improve the way I do this. And hopefully he follows through, so.
Very good. And so we have a recommended motion if somebody's willing to make that.
So moved.
And do you have a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And number 4 is the Green Dot training. The following dates, if you want to talk about that, Steve, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Commissioner. So I know it's been on our agenda. We've heard about Green Dot training. We've heard about this, ability to de-escalate, right? And so was able, as I reported at the last meeting, found a brochure about Green Dot training. Turns out our training coordinator here at the city knew the guy that does this training, and so he put me right in contact directly with him. He's excited to be able to offer this free of charge. And we've got it lined up at the Fargo-Cass Public Health in the Oak Room. He's used that room before, so it's set up with everything he needs. We're going to do once a month, different days between 2 and 3:30. For those in the bar industry, if you open at 4 o'clock, you can get in, you can get this training done. And if you're open at 10 or 11 or something like that, it's the middle of the afternoon, so you should be able to squeeze some time in. We'd like to see these different sessions just packed full, of people. He said no pre-registration is needed, but I'd be very disappointed if the industry didn't take this opportunity to learn some de-escalation tactics. So we have those 4 dates set up, all of them between 2 and 3:30. July 19th, which is a Wednesday, August 15th, a Tuesday, September 20th, a Wednesday, and October 26th, a Thursday. So they're all set up and ready to go. And again, I'm really going to encourage those in the industry to get, anybody involved in the stream of service or anybody involved in, at that greeter at the door, the person that's checking those IDs. Let's really pack these rooms and just see, show everybody that we're taking this seriously. So
Steve, can I ask you for a favor? Could we put this on the city website, if you don't mind, have a special thing? And then also, could we put this on the commission agenda? And if you don't mind, either you can or somebody can just do a quick review of this, just so we can get the word out there, so encourage people to participate. If you don't mind doing that, that would be great.
Yep. So do you want me to get up and speak at commission?
I can't make you, but I wish you would, if you don't mind.
Well, just so I have Kemper put it in the right place. So we don't want it on consent.
No, if you don't mind, I think that'd be great to have it on the regular agenda, and just to do a short a review of what it's going to do and how I think we're all supportive of it. I think it'll be good for the city. And so if you don't mind, I think that would be good to just to repeat this because you never know what people are watching and not watching. And so
I 100% agree that
Okay.
we'll get that out there.
Okay.
And then, so the other thing was, we had another training session or possibility of doing de-escalation training with the North Dakota Safety Council. That one will cost us some money and we would have to charge a fee for it, have advanced registration. I want to put that one on pause to see how well this one goes. And if this one, if we're not getting the attendance that we want, or if we think, hey, let's get another way of teaching this, then I'll line up that North Dakota Safety Council. It'd probably cost us $1,000, which, that's not too much to ask, but I just want to put that one on pause for a little while if you're okay with that. Otherwise, if you want me to move forward with it, I can get something lined up for probably August or September.
And I'm going to, obviously, any of you, if you're interested, I would encourage you, I'm going to try to go to one of these sessions. I just think it'd be interesting. So if you can make it, but I think that's a great way. And the other thing is if this seems like we should add something to it, I think we'll be supportive of that too, but just to wait to see how this goes. I think that's a good plan. Any other comments or questions about that?
Two of these, the ones on Wednesdays, do coincide with our liquor control days.
Yep.
So, but there is a Tuesday and a Thursday also. So,
Very good. That's great.
It's awesome. It's good. It's great.
Thank you for doing that. Okay, and so if it's all right, we'll move on to number 4B, recommendation to amend 25-1506J regarding the definition of a Class FA license that food must be prepared on the premise by the licensee. Steve.
yeah, and this, just a reaction to, what happened with our other incident, and we just want to clarify in our ordinance that any food that's going to count to a food sale needs to be prepared on the licensed premise by the licensee using the licensee's inputs, and that type of stuff. And so we just want to move this forward, have you guys request me to direct City Commission to amend the ordinance so that we can clarify that portion of the ordinance.
So do you need a motion that you bring this to the,
City Commission.
okay.
Yep.
Anyone willing to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 4C, recommendation to increase the number of Class C and Class W licenses available. And Steve, maybe you can talk about, some of these are based on our population. Obviously, we've had some revisions. The census updates our population different times.
Yeah, so this license is not based on population. This one was one where when we set the C and the W, which, okay, let me give a review. C is beer only, which you don't have to have food sales, and it does allow the physical bar. And then W, it kind of pairs with the C. It's wine only, but no food sales required, and it does allow you to have a physical bar. So we see most of the people pairing the two together, giving you beer and wine, no food sales, and allows you to have a physical bar. So we, at the time that we set this, we just arbitrarily picked 10 as that number. And to me, it's really made my job a lot easier because I'm not trying to shoehorn somebody into a license that they don't fit in. Now we have a license classification that fits the business model a lot better. So this again it's a staff initiated. We've set that number at 10 and we've issued 9 of them. And so I wanted to get out ahead. Oops, excuse me. Throw my pen down. Get out ahead of the next request, and just know that I still have some available. I put 20 down there, just taking a guess, but if you're more comfortable going gradual and want to do 15, that's fine. If you want to just say, no, you know what, this is what we set, that's fine too. It's really been a good tool for me to use, to have in my toolkit, when I get those people coming in and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. And I don't have to say, well, in order to get a liquor license, you're going to have a restaurant or you're going to have to do this thing, So The caps that we have that are tied to population are on our street bars, our full liquor license, right? So just to give you an idea where these licenses are being used, one is at a haircut, barbershop, Men's Hair World. Front Street Tap Room has a CW. The Tavern Grill, Grotto, so that's connected to like Hair Success, has one. Rough Cut Social, which is one of those axe throwing places. Dogleg North, which we just issued not too long ago. It's a golf simulator business. Crafty Taps, which is the one in the mall. Wild Terra has a CW. Fargo Brewing and Pixel Brewing all have CW. So you can kind of get a feel for, business, different concepts that have come in and how it's better to put them into a license they belong in rather than trying to find something that doesn't fit their business model.
Can I ask you a question,
Yes, sir.
Steve? So how much is a Class C and a Class W license?
Yes, good question. So the initial fee, the one-time fee that they pay is $7,500 for a C and $7,500 for a W. So they get into this business with the right license classification at $15,000.
Okay, and then I have what has been the pace for putting out these licenses? Like how many would you say a year? One or two or three?
I would say in that range. When we look back at the list that I just gave you, the only two that have come in the last 12 months are Dogleg and Crafty Taps. So it's, I think it's been fairly, it hasn't been a big rush.
And so then, but my question too is, so would you say this it's another tool for you as the staff to be a little more specific and flexible about what license a business can fit into instead of trying to have them fit into something that maybe isn't exactly what they're looking for?
Exactly that. And then we're not, saying, hey, you're not selling enough food or,
Right.
We've had situations in the past where it was a nail bar and they were buying pre-made sandwiches to bring back to sell to their customers when all they were doing was giving away the wine anyway. This way I can say, okay, if you want to have a nail bar and you want to have wine, here's the license for you. It doesn't require any food sales, and and if you want to give it away, so be it. It's kind of like the Men's Hair World. I don't think she charges for the beer. You get a haircut and a beer, and she gives the beer away. Well, that was her business decision. So.
Okay, and anyone else can jump into the questions, but I have one more real quick. So the Class C, right now we're at 10 and you wanted to increase to 20?
Well, that was my suggestion, but I've
To me, I would be more comfortable, let's say, splitting the difference and adding 5, because
Yeah.
especially if we're doing 1 or 2 a year and then coming back, because that's just my perspective, unless anybody has a different thing. But go ahead.
And, some of these are specialty places that, made sense. It would seem to me that we could add them one at a time as they come along also. But, and my concern about this is all around the state of North Dakota, that in my years in the beverage alcohol distribution business, I saw instances where beer bars opened up because it was an inexpensive entry into the category. And, there used to be a feeling that, going back to the days of 3.2 beer in Minnesota, that it was less dangerous than alcohol or wine or whatever because it's lower proof. And lots of studies have shown that's not true. A drink is a drink is a drink. So my concern would be somebody could get this license, open up a big place, have a band, try to entertain hundreds of people a night, be a busy place. Because I've seen that happen. And what ends up happening is they have a tough time competing. If that's their competitors are the street bars and the other bars, because they don't have spirits or spirits and wine, if they're just beer, for example, that they end up not doing well and they end up pandering. And the price of the beer gets lower and lower and lower. So I would be aware of that or concerned about that. The barber, that's a good story, et cetera, et cetera. I think in the case of, for example, Fargo Brewery, it's a little bit controversial in the market because that's turned into a big entertainment venue that actually has liquor brought in by somebody using a specialty license. They have a license outside of a brewing license so that they can be set up that way. So you have a big operation competing directly with our A's and AB's, and their entry fee is $7,500 versus somebody else's who's 95 or 115 or whatever it may be. So I think there's several issues here about what could happen that I would be concerned with. And then again, I could be wrong, but I have seen some bad instances with beer bars in virtually every major city in North Dakota, where they get in trouble and they start making poor business decisions to try to stay afloat.
Sure.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Jake.
I guess I also have concerns with the location of these. If what Bob is suggesting has a potential to happen, I would suggest that we take a look at what we're going to allow in the downtown area, since we're so overly saturated with alcohol establishments now, particularly with the full alcohol. And I realize this is only beer and wine, but if that comes to fruition, what Bob has suggested, then here we are adding more of that to the downtown area. And I have had people come up to me who are very concerned about what they see on the streets coming out of a movie and the levels of intoxication. So that would be one of my concerns, is that we also look at where these are allowed.
Do you have any comments? So anyway, what we can do, if we have concerns, we can continue this too. We do not have to do this today, so this could be the initial discussion. So whatever you care to do is fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. Bob's suggestion of let's see when the next one comes up. Let's see after that. We can add them one at a time, or something like that. That's fine too. And maybe we decide that that's we issued 10 and they're gone, and and that's fine too. One thing I would caution with that: anytime you set a cap, now you've created an artificial because the market forces. So if somebody does want to get it now, instead of paying $7,500 for it, they'll pay $10,000 or $20,000 to get that license and get into the business.
So I guess from my perspective, Steve, it might be good if we just delay this at this time. The other thing is, so these licenses aren't owned like some of the past licenses. So these are just, they would return. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, since we changed the ordinance in 2014 that any licenses issued after that time would return to the city if the business closes. Now, if you're selling your business and it's a alcohol related business, obviously the license needs to go with the business, or the business doesn't have much value. So if you're selling a going concern, then the license can transfer. But if you shuttered the doors, you can't go out on the market and try to peddle that license.
Go ahead.
So the businesses that you mentioned, there's a wide diversity there, right? There's something like Rough Cuts versus Fargo Brewing Company. And some of the concerns that you brought up, Bob, about, the beer bars in Fargo, I see a commonality with the food requirement licenses, where it's still meant to be like the alcohol sales are meant to be in proportion to something else, like food sales. Something like Rough Cuts or, the nail salon you mentioned, it's a part of an existing income structure or money structure, versus something like another kind of business where it is essentially the entirety of the business's income. I'm wondering if we can bring that into the conversation a little bit when we're talking about it being, increasing the number of them. If we can think about if we're looking for a business who is using this just as, it's like a side aspect to it, as opposed to the primary part of it versus the primary part. So maybe we can think about this a little bit more for moving forward.
Sure. So the last two that we issued were Dogleg North and Crafty Taps. And just exactly what you're saying. Dogleg was looking for something, have a beer while you're golfing, right? But Crafty Taps, that's all they're doing. right? And Crafty Taps they weren't going to do any food, anything like that. So I hear exactly what you're saying. So at this point, though, I'm fine with I just wanted to, I've had the question asked, how many of those do we have left? And so I did the research and I thought, well, let's just get out ahead of it. Let's ask for more, get more available. It's been a good tool, again, for me. So, but at this point, why don't we just let it go and we'll see what happens down the road.
Yep, that's very good. That was very good discussion. So we'll move on to number 5. That's other, and it was to comment about corkage fees.
Corkage fees, yeah. So a conversation that we've had, and again, I wanted to bring it up here so it gets on the minutes, but I'm also going to send it out on my listserv. And so one of the practices that we've become aware of recently is that, let's say it's a wedding or something like that, and the bride or the groom has a special wine that they like, and so they bring it into the facility that sells the alcohol, and then that facility charges a corkage fee to open it and put it on the tables and do that kind of thing. Well, that by in itself meets the definition of a bottle club. And so there is no such thing as a corkage fee. There's no definition for it in state law or local law, and bottle clubs are prohibited at state law. And so I just wanted to make that, aware so that anybody that's watching, or if it gets into our minutes, and I will get this out on our listserv too, I don't know if you'd call it a, process, or if it's a, kind of a practice, I guess, that's been kind of commonplace. What we're hearing anyway is that is a prohibited practice. And so any alcohol that is consumed on a licensed premise needs to be purchased, from the licensee. And so if you go to the Holiday Inn or you go someplace, they need to provide the alcohol that you're going to consume.
So in North Dakota, so it's a state, this is basically a state law that is not allowed?
That is absolutely correct. It's North Dakota Century Code 501-10. It says bottle clubs prohibited. Any person operating an establishment whereby persons are allowed to bring their own alcoholic beverages on the premise is guilty of a B misdemeanor.
Well, then I would say that I learned something new today, and I think everybody else here did too as well, because I've heard of that, and so I won't say anybody here has actually done that, Bob.
Be in
But
handcuffs.
no, it's good information to have. So thank you for finding that out, and so
We actually ran into that in downtown Fargo not too long ago, where there was a public space that was being set up as a private club, and they weren't selling any alcohol, but they were selling the setups and the limes and the lemons and that type of thing, or providing them. And once we found out about it and we did our investigation, Nancy made contact with the people that were involved, and it got shut down immediately.
So not to give you additional homework, but I do think this would be something good to put on our city website, just purely for informational purposes, because I think a lot of people, it would be news to them. And so it was news to us, and so that's good information. So thank you for doing that.
Yep. And
Very
that's
good.
all
Do we
I
have any comments or questions or anything else to add for the good of the order? Otherwise, it's 1:38. Thank you, everybody for coming. Have a great afternoon. We are adjourned.
Thank you.